Shenanigans. Truth, lies, 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 shenanigans.
Oh yeah! Shenanigans. Truth, lies, 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 shenanigans. Oh yeah! Shenanigans. Truth, lies, shenanigans. Truth, lies, shenanigans. Truth, lies, shenanigans. Truth, lies, shenanigans. Shenanigans. Truth, lies. Shenanigans. Truth, lies, 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 shenanigans.
Everyone, welcome to Truth Lies Shenanigans, the live show, season 2, episode 10. I go by the name Neo Nix, and yesterday the groundhog said 6 more weeks of winter. Today's show, we'll have a couple of new segments. For the month of February, in honor of Black History Month, we'll highlight a different historical black figure, and then our own Gianni Storm will provide us an astrological outlook for the month. Then we'll get to some serious hot topics. I'll be talking about the little girl handcuffed and maced by police in New York. And we'll be talking, excuse me. And we'll talk about, yeah, that's funny. We're talking about transgender athletes, and we'll also be talking about COVID vaccinations, and we'll be talking, and we're talking about the other side of Bernie's mitten. All right, so it should be a great show ahead. Before we get into it, let me introduce you to our wonderful hosts, our professor, writer, editor, journalist, and all-around sports guru out of Washington, D.C., Lizzie Enders.
What's Lizzie up, everyone? Happy Hump Day, Wednesday, humping, coming at ya. Hope everyone is doing well. Hope everyone has recovered from the fake snowstorm here in D.C. proper. Not talking to you people in the suburbs.
I still got snow on the ground.
I don't deal with people in Maryland and Virginia. I'm just talking to my DC folks. Hope you've recovered and you are ready for the blizzard that I'm trying to speak into existence. Speak it.
Ooh, a blizzard, old-fashioned.
All right, Robbie Rock.
How's it going, everyone? It's so good to be here. Not really wishing the blizzard like Liz is. I've enjoyed a winter
like every day.
I haven't had to shovel as much this winter, so I'm okay with that. It's been a little bit cold, but it's been warming up. We're back in single-digit minuses, so it's bearable. It's good.
All right, and Gianni Storm, how's it going?
Hey guys, everything is going pretty good. Copacetic, just it's nice. I'm kind of getting used to the cold since we're talking about weather. I'm kind of getting used to it. Even though you guys are in much colder temperatures. But yeah, regular hump day.
Awesome. Glad you guys are all set and ready to go. All right, so for each show this month, in honor of Black History Month, we'll be highlighting a different historical black figure in our TLS Black History Profile. So, shortly after the Civil War, the 15th Amendment was passed by Congress on February 26, 1869, and ratified today, February 3rd, 1870, granting African American men the right to vote. Now, prior to the 15th Amendment, African Americans could not vote, but they were considered to be 3/5 of a person because of the 3/5 compromise in 1787. So much like the Electoral College does now for lightly populated rural America, the South, being able to count slaves who were considered property as 3/5 a person, gave Southern states the best of both worlds, allowed the less populated Southern states to count at least a portion of their slaves as population, thus allowing the slaves to have additional representatives in Congress. Thus allowing the South, to have additional representation in Congress, but not allowing the slaves to actually vote and choose their representatives, ultimately causing the South to have a stranglehold on slavery. The 15th Amendment changed all of that and allowed Thomas Mundy Peterson to become the first African American to vote. Thomas Mundy Peterson lived from October 6, 1824 to February 4th, 1904, and was Perth Amboy, New Jersey, first historic vote on March 31st, 1870. Peterson's vote was cast in a local election held at Perth Amboy City Hall regarding the town's charter. He was a school janitor between 1870 and 1878 and a general handyman. He was active in both the Republican Party and Prohibition Party. And he was also the first colored person to serve on a jury. To honor Thomas Mundy Peterson, the citizens of Perth raised $70, which would be about $1,800 in today's money, to award him a gold medallion. And in October 1989, the school where Peterson had worked as a janitor was named after him. So that is TLS Black History Profile. Thomas Mundy Peterson, the first Black voter. So did you guys know about Thomas Mundy before?
You
Never
talking to
heard
me?
of him. Wow.
Any of you? Yeah.
Yes.
No.
I figured Lizzie
Yes.
had.
Yes.
Gianni Storm,
Gotta
no?
school these children, gotta train up these
No,
children
I've
on
never heard of him.
Robbie?
Oh, no. I knew that there had to be a first black voter, but I did not know his name.
Who it was.
It was him. Yeah. Or that he was honored in such a way. So that's really cool that he in his lifetime got to see the respect that he deserved. So very cool.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Very
Take
interesting.
note of as great as an accomplishment that was, especially as a part of Black history, be advised that the 15th Amendment only dealt with African American
Men.
males. Women's suffrage did not start until 1920.
That's true.
And even under that, Black women were still denied the right to vote in this country up until the Voting Rights Act of 1965, signed by Lyndon Johnson. So it was not equal for us women. We've been fighting hard for years and years and years and years and years.
I do find it interesting. I mean, I always found it interesting in history that Black men had the right to vote before women did, white women.
Well, because well, then there's that. But women, still were considered second-class citizens behind men. And so no women could vote at all until 1920. And then even after that, they still denied, Black, and not just Black women, women of color, particularly Native American women. That's also very important to know. Native American women, like a lot of those early segregation laws in this country also applied to Native Americans.
I always thought that, I don't know if it's like a theory I heard or something I heard in school, that it was considered white men were at the top, then white women, and then Black men, and then Black women. So it is interesting that Black men were before white women in voting. That is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I think, again, it was a gender thing because, women were supposed to, at that time, especially in the 1800s, they weren't supposed to really have any existence out of the domestic home. They weren't really supposed to be working or being a part of government, if you will. And then also, too, because there was still a lot of lynchings going on. There was still the KKK. They probably, considered, well, a lot of Black men are going to be too afraid to vote anyway. So we're okay for now. We can keep them from doing that for a while.
Oh, I just want to point out. So I was looking at some comments online. Kevin Thaxton said the North came up with the three-fifths compromise, which is true. Mike Winter says some Bama needs to fly to Finland.
Whatever. He's been trying to learn Finland, sending me, ill-advised messages in Finnish all day that he's learning from his language site.
Says, sadly, never knew about Thomas Mundy Peterson. Good information. And Sherry Blaine Priest says, good evening, everyone. Looking forward to this evening's show. And
Welcome.
she's surprised
Welcome.
it was hump day already.
Yeah.
Happy to spend this time with you guys. All right. All right, if you've
Welcome.
never been to TLS before, Truth Lies Shenanigans, let me tell you a little bit about us. Our hosts share their truths and opinions with you, call out the lies, and point out any ridiculous shenanigans going on. And on our show, we always try to have some fun with shenanigans of our own. Streams live just about everywhere: YouTube, Facebook, Periscope,
Just about.
Twitter, Instagram, Twitch. And again, we weren't able to stream on TikTok, so our TikTok users, look for us on Sunday. Sunday, we'll be
Or
back.
they could go to YouTube.
Yep, or go to YouTube.
Yep,
You'll find us. You'll
YouTube.
find us. If you can't find us, you'll find us. Just search
Somewhere.
TLS Live Show across all platforms. All right, and also make sure you subscribe to the audio replay of the podcast on iTunes, Google, Alexa, Pandora, iHeart. You'll find us wherever you watch to or listen to podcasts. You can listen to us in your car if you go on vacation or if you're still commuting to work. All right, so we now have a new segment. Our own Gianni Storm has a passion for astrology. And today, she is going to talk about how the stars and the planets are aligning and what you can expect in our first ever stellar forecast with Gianni Storm. All right, Gianni Storm.
Okay, guys. Here are the most important transits that are going to be happening in the month of February. So first, what I'm going to do is go through the important aspects, and then I'll go through each zodiac sign very quickly so I can highlight some of the key things you'll be facing this month. So first, happy flight day to the February babies or Aquarius babies. So there's a huge emphasis on Aquarius type themes. So basically, the first retrograde of 2021 is happening from the 8th to the 20th. And if anybody knows what retrograde is, doesn't know what retrograde is, it means that there is a period of time when, so retrograde means that there's a period of time when a planet is stationary and it's just stuck. But it appears to be going backwards. So it gives influence of backtracking and having to go over things, especially in Mercury. It's important to look over the details and probably not sign important contracts and all of those cliche things. But when we're talking about the Sun and Mercury joining together on the 8th, which is in a few days, we can find it easy to have innovative and progressive type thoughts. Those ideas can come to us easier, but we may lack the assertiveness to actually go after them.
And that's on the 8th?
Because on the 8th of February. Yep, 5 days from now. Because of this retrograde period. So also the retrograde tells you to, like I said, check the details of documents and projects before assuming new responsibilities and taking on new things. That's
You're
probably
saying
it's
if
not
I'm
a good
signing
time
some
for that.
contracts right now, I should take care? Not sign them at all?
If you can avoid serious contracts, definitely avoid them from the 8th
I'm
through
selling
the
my grandma's
20th.
house.
What about
Are you
bills?
really?
What about bills? Do I have to pay bills?
Just look them over definitely more than twice.
Okay.
But for the most part, you should be good. Or if you can get somebody else to look over them, then yeah, do that.
Okay.
But we get out of retrograde on the 20th, and Mercury goes direct. So we'll probably be experiencing more optimism and maturity, reconciliation, and then that's when we can begin new projects. So now we're going to go down the timeline to the 28th, which is important because it is, the end of the month. It's important because it is a grand Earth trine. So the reason I fast forwarded to the 28th is because this trine, I always like trines because they give you, a trine is considered a gift.
Okay.
So if you have 3 planets, I don't know why I pulled these out, but you have 3 planets and they're forming a triangle in the sky. I wish I had 3 hands, but they're forming a triangle in the sky. A triangle gives you the opportunity to have something or get something. So it's Earth trine. Earth is material things. So we're going to be having the moon in Virgo, Pluto is going to be in Capricorn and Mars is in Taurus. So this alignment's going to promote the achievement or the manifesting of material objects or objectives.
So we can make
So
money.
we can, yeah, you can make money. It can be, well, you can make money anytime, but it kind of like makes it easier. Like with these influences, it's definitely easier to have material objects, especially with earth signs, with it being in earth signs. So because of that, we can thank, the perseverance of Pluto, realism of Capricorn, and personal confidence as well for the individual. And that's why you're able to, achieve those material objectives. This is the 28th. So the way you can prepare for that is just start, for people who are like not into astrology, just start like mental manifesting, like visualizing something material that you'd like to have by the end of the month. Okay, fast forwarding. I'm gonna skip the new moon and the full moon only because it gets complex, and I'm just gonna go to you guys' zodiac signs and give you the key themes that you can be looking out for this month. All right, Aries. You have emphasis on the 11th house, which spotlights like aspirations and your social life, your friends, and you're really focusing on like your long-term happiness and an end goal, like not even just for this month, really for this year, but at this time it's going to be, you guys are going to gather how you're going to do that. Taurus, you guys have emphasis on the 10th house, which is about career, work, finance, status.
That's me.
Right now, yeah, that is you, Neo. I keep thinking you're a Virgo. Why? I don't know. Okay, but yeah, Neo, this is for you. Right now, you're going to be focusing on your larger life plans and responsibilities and how you perform in public arenas type, well, not
like
arenas,
here.
but public areas. Yeah, like here.
Okay.
Yep, exactly. So Geminis, your focus is on the 9th house, which spotlights learning, experiencing, venturing beyond, and venturing beyond like your usual routines. So kind of escaping your being in the now. It also kind of promotes adventure, belief systems, like culture and higher learning and law and stuff like that. So you have an emphasis on that house this month. Cancer, you guys have a focus on the 8th house. Yes, Liz. Me and Liz, we're Cancers. We have a focus on the 8th house, which is personal power and regenerating ourselves. Like it's a death house, which is kind of sounds bad, but it's like personal death, like transforming yourself. And it's probably going to be also about debts and how we're going to figure out how we're paying off our debts and like personal money and stuff. Okay. Leo's
Get that tag,
7th
Liz.
house.
Get that tag.
Start planning for that grand trine at the end of the month. Leo, 7th house. You guys have a big focus on relationships, but more specifically one-on-one relationships, because that's what 7th house is personal. You also have a focus on business partnerships and unions, and there's a strong importance for Leos to focus on negotiating and agreements this month. So a lot of maybe talking one-on-one for you Leos. For Virgos, the 6th house is about.
What are you?
Yeah, what are you, Rob? Oh, Scorpio.
Scorpio.
Yep, you're coming up.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
All right, let me. No, you're good. Okay, so Virgos, you guys are in your element this month. It's the 6th house. That's the house that you rule. So you guys are going to be focusing on how your everyday activities, your body, your health, work, routines, boring stuff, basically. Libra.
Boring,
5th
Jackie.
house.
Boring, Jackie. Boring. Virgos are boring.
Very boring. You Libras are going to be focusing on your self-expression. You're going to be focusing on your kids. You're going to be focusing on having fun and kind of playing at this. This month is a playtime for you. You're going to have fun this month. Don't overspend also, I would say that. Scorpios, you guys have emphasis on the 4th house, and the 4th house has to do with family, personal plans, home life, and like domestic type of affairs. So you have an emphasis on either parenting or like your parents, or like how you're parenting or something with your parents. So I would say that's kind of Scorpio in the fourth house isn't bad because fourth house is ruled by Cancer. So you guys kind of know how to manage your fourth house well. Yeah.
Woo, fourth house ruled by Cancer.
I don't care about no cancers.
What's Mel's sign?
We're very much loved.
Why?
Who wants Cancer in their house? Come on.
Right, nobody wants cancer.
The Cancer that will whoop you into straight.
It's
July
it's my
2nd.
house.
Her birthday's July 7th.
That's true.
2nd.
Second, so she is a Cancer.
She's a Cancer. Nice.
Which is a reason.
Yeah, Cancer and Taurus.
Truth to power.
Yeah. Next is we have Sagittarius in the third house. Third house rules communications, your short trips, like your area that you live in, like your neighborhood and stuff like that. So Sagittarius go out. I wouldn't say go out, actually. That's horrible advice. But be more familiar with your surroundings and like have short conversations, talk to your best friends and stuff like that. You might find a lot of progression in that area. Finally, we have Aquarius in the first house. Since this is spotlighting you, it's all about you this month. You guys are the examples on how to fail or how to be successful. And then just to wrap it up, Pisces at the 12th house. I would say Pisces this month, work on your personal, like it's since there's emphasis on the 12th house, there's emphasis on things that you can't see, meaning like your dreams, karma, like I wouldn't even say religion, like spirituality, things that are like ending and reflection of the past. So Pisces, this is like a subconscious type month for you. Don't let it overwhelm you and don't be too spacey, like out, like how Aquarius can be, like kind of out there, weird. So yeah, stay grounded.
Aquarius is out. Whoop, 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 whoop.
Stay grounded. All right.
Yeah.
So
that
was a lot. That was a lot. Okay, so that's good.
What's your zodiac sign?
I'm Scorpio.
All right. So you want to tell people how they can find you online, Gianni?
Yes, you guys can find me on YouTube, Gianni Storm. It's my name right here. But also you can find me on apps like Instagram, TikTok, and Likey. I go by Gianni Astrology on Likey, which you should probably follow me on Likey. I have more information on astrology and tarot readings and things like that. So Gianni Astrology on Likey app.
All right. Awesome. All right, some comments
You should
online.
talk to my bestie. You should talk to my bestie. Like she's very much into astrology, astronomy as well, both things. But she's always, anytime I have like an issue or a problem, oh my God, Elizabeth, you're in retrograde. Girl, you were in retrograde. You shut up.
She knows. Yeah, hit me up.
So let me ask you a side question. So do you get a lot of people kind of making fun of your passion, or do you find people embracing it?
I find more people embracing it than making fun of it. But the people that make fun of it, it's more of like, I don't know, I feel like I know when people are like, like I just feel it. It's like this awkward energy, but it's okay. Because I feel like I'm a very realistic person. Like I'm very checked in. So I feel like I wouldn't follow something or I wouldn't indulge in something. Those are horrible words, but I wouldn't like deal in something that I don't trust. Yeah. So yeah, I feel like I trust astrology, and that's why I'm teaching it.
Awesome. So yeah, you have so Kevin Thaxton says, "Great job, Miss Cleo." he also earlier said,
"You know what Miss Cleo is?
Witchcraft."
Yes,
you know what Miss
that's
Cleo
horrible.
Is?
Yep, and I know her biography. Yeah, it was crazy.
Rob, do you know who Miss Cleo is?
Oh God, yeah. But it's only 8:30. It's only 8:30. Isn't it too early for Miss Cleo to be on?
That was some good stuff from like the 80s and the 90s. Woo!
Yeah, Miss Cleo was fun. She was fun. All right. So yeah, and then I saw one more. Oh yeah, Kevin Thaxton also referred to it as witchcraft.
Yeah,
a lot of people also have said that. He was just kidding. And Sherry Blaine Free says, "Love what you do."
In a way.
Oh, it is.
No, I'm kidding. But it is like
Johnny's a witch.
it's like
You're saying you're a witch. Johnny?
divination.
Put the root
No.
on him. I've been wanting to put the
No.
root on Jackson for a while, so feel free. Put the root on him.
I will not be doing that. No bloodshed on my hands. I'm good.
All right, guys, let's get into our hot topic.
Truth, lies, shenanigans.
All right, the way Hot Topics works is each one of our hosts brings a hot topic they want to share with you. We'll ask, is it truth, lies, shenanigans? Our panel will talk about it for a bit until time is up. And then we'll go to our audience questions and comments. So make sure you're talking to us in all of our threads. And today, I am starting us out. And we are talking, so is this truth, lies, or shenanigans? This is truth. Let me first say, for some of our viewers, some of the footage you may find offensive from the segment, so just wanted to warn you. We have another situation showing why there needs to be reforms in policing, defund the police, refund the police, whatever you want to call it, something needs to change. Body cam footage from January 29th shows Rochester, New York police officers restraining a distraught 9-year-old girl who was handcuffed and sprayed with pepper spray. Now, before I share the clips from the video, I want to point out last year's episode where we talked about 4 black children, including a 6-year-old, who were detained after pulling over the wrong car, reported stolen, and some of them handcuffed and all of them forced to lie on the ground face down. And then we talked about last season, episode 44, Daniel Prude. This is the exact same Rochester police officer that killed Daniel Prude just before the fateful events of George Floyd. Prude, who was clearly a person going through mental crisis, died after officers responding to a call for help from his brother put a hood over the naked man's head and pressed his face into the pavement until he was dead. All right.
I never saw that video.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the Rochester police officers, I'm going to show you guys the videos. Now it's about a 3-minute video, so I just want to take you guys through it and prepare you. But I wanted to really show you, I know a lot of you may have seen it on the news, but there is a portion of the video early on where you kind of see the officer originally meeting the child.
Get off of me.
What's going on?
Get off of me.
Stop. You're not in trouble. Come here. Stop.
No.
What's going on?
Get off of me.
What's going on?
Get off of me.
I'm not going to get off.
Get off.
What is going on? How can I help? No,
I
because
don't
you're not
want to
going to run.
I'm not going.
That's fine. What happened? Why are you so upset?
She stabbed my dad.
Who did?
You seen off of my lip. The fuck? No, it was not, because when he walked in the house, he was holding his stomach. It was my blood. How the hell? So your lip gonna bleed all the way down to your stomach, to your pants. Fighting on the porch.
Who's
yes,
your dad?
You grown-ass little girl. You're grown as a bitch. You don't know what
dad?
you're talking about. Look at you. Yes, he had me in the headlock. You finna really make me do.
Ma'am.
Really finna go in on your ass. Now, because she's 9 years old and she's really behind. That's why she's done. That's why she's done. It's okay. You sit there and watch this man put his hands on me all the time. All the time.
Did you stab him?
No, I didn't. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. You gonna bring your ass to this house if I yoke your ass up and drag you home. I got custody. You're my child. So you gonna take your ass home right now, and you gonna take your ass in the house.
All right, come on. Hold on.
Can you stop it right there?
I'm gonna fuck in the house now.
Can you just stop it right there? Because I want to know, where was the police intervention to protect this child? You have an angry, vile, aggressive mother who's cursing at a 9-year-old, threatening her and approaching her as if she's going to engage. And the police don't do anything to push her back.
He did hold her. So he did try to hold her back, but
to handcuff a 9-year-old. How about address the adult in the situation who should know better? I just had to get that out because I hadn't seen that portion of the video yet.
Yep.
So I'm sitting here like,
there's more to it. I actually cut some of it out because the videos are long. She actually did more than that. It was actually even more aggressive than that. I mean,
when
he
she was
did
like
try
being
to pull her
super
away from the child as she was trying to hit her,
fighting.
but
Yeah,
there
when they were
was
fighting.
it wasn't a lot. It wasn't enough, in my opinion. Um,
Man,
I wish you might.
if you want my help, just get up.
You might.
What kind of English is that?
I
wish you might.
know.
Stop. Stop.
Who the fuck is you talking to like that? Get away. Who the fuck is you talking to like that? Who the fuck is you talking to like that? No.
Come on, you gotta come to me. You gotta come to me.
I'm not
to your point, Lizzie, I'm going to come back to this, but to your point, you know, this is a child who just thought she had witnessed her father being stabbed. Even if she didn't see her father being stabbed, she saw a violent incident, right? She was clearly upset about it. She was clearly having problems. You know, she was distraught. I mean, you expect a police officer to help her. I mean, I'm sure she as a child is expecting a police officer to help her. This is what happens. This is how
I want my
it
dad.
You're not gonna run off.
I want my dad.
You're gonna be fine.
Stop.
I want my dad. I'm not getting in no car until I see my dad.
Here, just stop for a second.
I want my dad.
47, I'm in.
I want my dad. No.
Stop. Don't kick us, dear.
What are they doing?
Stop! Oh my God!
Stop, dude. Just relax.
Okay.
Point the
Wait,
gun
my
and put her
mom
in the
is
hand.
pregnant.
Are you done?
My mom pregnant.
9-year-old girl.
Are you asking me to
Stop.
let me go? I want my dad.
Stop, dear.
I want my dad. I want my dad.
Get
I
in the
want my
car.
dad.
Get in the car.
I demand.
I don't care what you demand. Let's go.
I
She's got her
want.
leg underneath my car.
Stop! I want my dad. I want my dad.
Stop, or you're gonna get yourself hurt.
Stop! He's hurting me. I want to.
It's over.
Hey, get in the car.
Please help somebody. No!
Who is training these people?
I want my.
Disgusting.
You're acting like a
I
child.
want to.
Stop.
I am a child. The fuck.
I just went back to the house.
My order. I have a
All right.
bad order.
Stand up. Stand up.
Yeah, let me
I have a
Stand
bad
up.
order. I want to grab me back. This is it, honey.
get back in the car then.
It's too hard. You won't do it if no, you said that you were gonna pepper spray me. No, please no, stop. Sit back. I got a bad arm.
Just spray her.
I do not know I have
Just
a
spray
bad
her at this
arm.
point.
Stop.
Wow.
Dear.
Stop.
I got her. I got her.
Please wipe my eye. Wipe my eye, please.
Unbelievable.
I mean, the nerve of him to say
Yeah,
unbelievable.
seriously.
So again, up until they tried to force her into the car, she wasn't really being aggressive. Yeah, she was mouthing off, but she wasn't really being physically aggressive. The aggressive one was the adult mother. And never once did they try to restrain the mother the way they restrained this
Well, they
child.
ultimately arrested the mother.
They didn't, but up until that point, like it took a lot to get to that though. They didn't arrest her. They didn't threaten to pepper spray her. They didn't try to force her into the car. They didn't tell her to shut up. And I applauded the young lady when the ignorant police officer was like, "You're acting like a child." She goes, "Well, I am a child." She's 9. She's
9 years old.
9. How
9
else
years
do you
old.
expect her to act? There are police officers around her. There is an angry, violent mother around her, like you said, Neo, whom she believes stabbed her father. And you guys they weren't doing anything to address that situation.
I do want to say
And
a
so
couple of things.
even
Initi-
if they had calmed her down, because I've been around a parent who hates when you tell about what's going on in the house. So even if they had calmed her down, what do you think would have happened to that little girl between her and the mama once she got back in the
got home.
house?
Yep.
Yeah.
I want to point out, so the initial call was from the mother saying that the daughter was making suicidal threat. a 9-year-old making suicidal threats, that's something important. But even if that initial call is that, this is not how you treat somebody who's on suicide watch. But the city of
Yeah.
Rochester suspended 3 police officers during an internal investigation that they're doing. And I should also note that after they killed Daniel Prude, the city launched a person in crisis response team that launched early last month in January, but they were not called to respond to this. And so my question to you guys is, what do we need to do to affect change here?
Can I just add one more point before you kick it to Rob B and Gianni Storm? So again, talking about the mother, I don't know if you were aware of this, Neo, but she's now suing.
Yes, I am aware.
She's now suing the city of Rochester for abuse against her daughter. The absolute nerd. The absolute nerd.
I mean, somebody's got to sue. I mean, there's no question about that. But
It
it
shouldn't
is
be
the
her.
nerve of the mother doing
But
it.
it's not.
He should not
I
benefit
want to really
from
know
this.
what happened with the father too, because obviously there's an abusive situation there. But let me let Rob B. Rock and Gianni Storm jump in. Let me start with Gianni, actually.
Cool.
Where do I start? No, I feel like they came in wrong by, I think it was like 9 police officers that I counted there, or 8, something like that.
I think that's about accurate.
1, the wrong people were called, and then 2, why were you guys with suicide? I understand because it can get sticky. I understand maybe that's probably why, but then even the behavior of the police officers, I feel like they felt like she kind of spoke like she was much older, and that's probably because she's been through a lot of real crap in life, you can tell. So she spoke much older. And even the mom called her a grown ASS little girl. So it was like because she's been through real experiences more so than a lot of people probably. And so I think that they handled her as if she was already somebody that was going to be aggressive and be like that. So it was like placing her in that scenario to behave like that. Like they didn't kill down sorry,
The thing
Neil.
that pisses me off though about that is that her mother in the earlier video told the officer she's 9 years old. Not only that, the daughter says, "I am a child." And they didn't tamp her down. Go ahead, Rob.
And my thing is,
sorry,
there
Jen.
was no change. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead,
No, I was
Jen.
just going to say there was no change from that. What was it called? That campaign. I think you said that they started for mental health crisis. Like there was no training or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I'll talk to him when I talk. But go ahead, Robbie. Did you want to add anything?
Yeah, well, it's important to note that the child did threaten harm to herself and to her mother. She said she was going to kill herself and her mom. So it is there's a lot more going on. She's clearly a child in an abusive situation who witnessed something traumatic and violent between her parents.
I just want to jump in real quick on that, to that point. She is 9 years old, and I remember having been in an abusive situation, not making threats to suicide, but making threats for things to stop. You become so desperate for things to stop that you start making these
she was pushed
things
to
like,
that.
I'm going to kill myself if you don't stop, or I'm going to, if you don't stop, I'm going to kill you, or, because as a child, you don't know what else to do. So you go to an extreme. So I just want to make that point.
But also, to that point, the mother threatened her in front of the police officer.
Yes, threatened her physically.
On several occasions.
And attacked her, literally abused her in front of the police.
So like Neil said, she may have said, I'm going to kill myself, I'm going to kill my mother. But that wasn't not that I know of. Maybe I missed it. I don't know if that was in front of the actual police officers, but they did see the mother threaten her.
I didn't see it in the video.
The mother lunged at her, whatever, in front of them, and nothing was done.
In all the videos, she never threatened suicide in the videos, and I've watched them thoroughly. So, never in any of the videos did she threaten suicide.
I never heard her say anything.
She might have done it like the mother. I did hear the phone call that the mother made, the 911 call, and she said that. But go ahead, Robbie.
The mother's the only one that's vocalized it.
Yeah. Vocalized.
It's also important to note that the mom escalated the situation because when she was on site, she gave license to the officers to handcuff the child, so to detain her in that fashion. So I mean, the
I don't
mom's
know that they
clearly,
did, though. I
or
mean, I think there's still some discrepancy on that. I think that's what the officer said, but I don't know that that's accurate.
But also, you could
fair.
deny, you can choose not to do it as well. Like, yeah, mom is saying handcuff her. As an officer, you can use your common sense, you can use your good judgment, you can use your compassion and be like, she's 9. I'm not
Yeah.
handcuffing a 9-year-old. And it begs the question, if you have children and your 9-year-old is having a tantrum, is unruly, and I'm not saying this to the abusive parents who may be watching, I'm talking to the rest of us. Would you handcuff them? Would you spray pepper spray in their eyes? Would you curse them down like that? And mainly I'm asking this of the police officers. Like, would you treat your child like this? I don't
Oh
think so.
God, no.
Exactly.
I mean, if
Exactly.
she didn't want to go in the car, why not just let her sit on the side of the road until
Take
Where was
things
her
your
calm
car?
down?
put it on the
Mhm.
concrete and let her sit on your jacket.
Just let her sit. If she doesn't want to go in the car, let her.
Exactly.
She's 9. What is she going to do?
She's
Where's
9.
the threat?
She's not even 10. She's
Yeah.
very young.
What is she going to do? She can't run from
Yeah.
you. She's not going anywhere. She can't beat you up. She's not going to shoot you. Let her sit. If she wants to sit in the cold, let her sit in the cold. Offer her to sit in a nice, warm, you know, squad car. Fine. But at some point, why couldn't kindness be the better option?
There was
Or like,
no like
you just
de-escalation of anything.
exactly, Gianni.
No,
Exactly.
and the real failure is that the task force that they built a year ago and that went into active duty a
Yeah.
week ago was not called. They have a specialized team to deal with these types of crises. So, like
Exactly.
Johnny had alluded to, there's definitely training at the dispatch level, new procedures when they're issuing these types of emergency services teams. It should have been handled by the crisis intervention team. Unfortunately, it was relegated to the police force, and they did not handle the situation properly. But hopefully, moving forward, Rochester will learn from this horrible experience and put the right teams in play. We're talking about defund the
Yeah.
police and funding the right initiatives, that we need to use those proper initiatives when they are in place. So
Right.
if there was a failure
Yeah.
in dispatch communication that resulted in this really another horrible situation for a
I mean,
child.
because the fact that they set up
Yeah.
something
Traumatizing.
like that for a crisis situation is great. That's what we've been looking for. That's what we talked about in, what was that, episode 44 with Daniel Prude. We need to have those interventions, and they did it. But why not use it? Even if you don't use it, let's say you don't use it and you make the mistake, those officers have to do better. What you did with Daniel Prude. Why wouldn't you say to, hey, we don't need another situation like that? Why wouldn't there be some type of training for? Because there are going to be times where that response unit can't get there, or that
Yeah.
they're overwhelmed. Maybe there's a bunch of people who are in crisis at one given point, and they don't have enough officers. There still need to be police officers who can de-escalate a situation with a 9-year-old girl.
With a 9-year-old girl, yeah.
A 9-year-old girl who will
Yeah.
probably never trust a police officer again in her life.
I mean,
Ever.
when
There's not
when
going to be
She
any
probably doesn't even
respect,
trust her parents.
nothing.
Yeah.
when you're an abused
The thing about
child,
parents, though, the thing about parents, though, is children are more often than not, at least initially, they forgive their parents for a lot of stuff because they love them, essentially. And that's who they know to be raising them. Police officer is different. You don't know these white guys that are in your face that are cursing at you and trying to force you into a car and spraying pepper spray and yeah, like they don't know that, and they see that initially as a sign of authority. These are supposed to be authority, but everyone around them is telling them that police officers are bad, and now they just experienced it firsthand.
when you're
So
an
they will
abused
probably
child,
never
you
get her back.
are
Or her.
looking for someone to help you, to protect you. You're looking for that person because, again, I know, Lizzie,
Mhm.
you've spoken about your history. I know my history. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for somebody to help. And when you go to the help and they're worse, I just want to point out, though, even though she was distraught, and Lizzie alluded to it, first off, she did nothing to warrant arrest in any way. But she reported the crime of abuse and possible attempted murder to the initial officer. And Gianni Storm pointed out the fact that she seemed very older. She requested her parent before getting into anyone's car. These are all things that you should do. She reiterated that she was a minor child. She requested a female officer when the guys were mishandling her. She informed them that her mom was pregnant. Please don't mishandle her. She let them know that she had an injury to her arm. And she rightfully screamed, "Please, somebody help me." I mean, if I were an attorney, I would have a field day, but mostly because the child did everything right.
And they failed to protect her from her mom. They allowed someone who was aggressive, who was angry, who was ready to physically engage, get within striking distance of this 9-year-old.
And
So
clearly has an abusive father as
so
well.
if anyone needs to sue, it's the 9-year-old. If anyone needs to sue, it's the 9-year-old.
I'm worried for her. Where does she go? She has no safety.
They probably took her to get one physically evaluated at a hospital because she said something had happened to her arm, but also some type of psych evaluation because there was an allegation that she tried to kill herself, and then she, seemed to be a little off at moments, and then after that, hopefully removed from the home. Don't send her back to that crazy woman at all.
Yeah, don't.
And then, as she kept asking, where is the father? What happened with that side of the story? Because the mother denying that she stabbed the father, she also was speaking as if you better shut up. You better shut up. Don't tell them what happened. You better shut up. Like I'm used to that type of language.
Intervening. I agree with you.
That's specifically. So there's a lot to unwrap here, a lot going on here. Shame on the city of Rochester. Shame on the Rochester Police Department that we are here once again dealing with this.
Let me quickly go down some of these comments online. So Kevin Daxon says, because there's some punk ass Bamas. Candace Winston said they never tried to de-escalate. Why not take her to wherever her dad was? Or at least offer to take her to wherever her dad was. Mike Winter says, because we're all monkeys to them.
Hospital because he was stabbed. That's where the dad was.
I still haven't heard. I was researching. I still haven't heard what actually happened.
Yeah.
To the father.
Why didn't even the police officers ask about it?
Get him on the phone. Anything.
Right.
To calm down someone's crisis.
Gary Winter said, not only handcuff but pepper spraying. Exercise good judgment. How do you raise children? How are intervention services provided? George Fournier said, well said, Rob. Cherry Blaine Priest said, the damage is done. And yes, Gianni, where does she go from here?
Yeah.
All right, let's get to our next hot topic because we use up a lot of time with that one.
Truth, lies, shenanigans.
All right, Gianni Storm, you want to talk about, what are we talking about, Gianni? We're talking about Biden wanting to allow transgender people who are biologically male to compete in traditionally women's
executive
sport.
order.
So is this truth, lies, or shenanigans?
This is the truth. So our new president just signed an executive order to allow transgender individuals to play equally in sports. So a biological male who is transgendered into a woman can play in a female sports, basically. If I said it right, you guys can help me.
And vice versa.
Yeah, and vice versa. Yep. So quite a few female student athletes had an issue with this, and lawsuits have become involved due to these athletes claiming that this is unfair. One group prioritizes inclusion, and another group says that we want fairness and safety. That's one sports study mentions that. Another one mentions at 1 year, the trans woman on average still has an advantage over the cis woman. And cis women, if you don't know what that is, it just means biologically female, like you were born a woman and you still are a woman, a straight woman. So in a separate study, for the first 2 years after starting hormones, the trans women in their review were able to do 10% more push-ups and 6% more sit-ups than their cisgender female counterparts. After 2 years, they were fairly equivalent to the cisgender women. And then there's another study that spoke about this as well. Their running times declined, and this is talking about track and field. Their running times declined as well, but 2 years on, trans women were still 12% faster on the 1.5 mile run that cisgender peers, than their cisgender peers, sorry. So basically, those are just comparing the difference between the cis women and their transgender counterparts. My question to you guys is, should transgender individuals compete in women's sports or vice versa? Transgender men compete in men's sports.
Yeah,
Is this fair?
I'll go first, unless somebody else wants to go first.
Go ahead.
Go for
All
it.
right. So, Johnny, I had spoken to you, and I told you I was going to try to find an argument to support transgender biological males competing in women's sports, because I wanted to play devil's advocate. But honestly, I just couldn't find it.
Yeah.
I couldn't make that argument that, I just couldn't make the argument. So, I mean, because if you look at biological men, they have hormones. They're born with hormones that provide muscle growth, bone density, growth, and height, all biologically produced biologically by men. And sports was never really a priority for women, in historically speaking, right? And it's just in the recent decades that women's sport kind of came to fruition. I mean, there's been women's sports, there's been tennis, but look at the WNBA, for example.
He said tennis.
I mean, because women could not compete against men in terms of WNBA. There's still people that believe they can. I still believe that there's, you can always go up. But
why is that going up though? Why do you keep saying that? You and I had an argument about this like maybe 5-6 years ago.
I remember.
Because the NBA is over here and it's a more popular league, and the WNBA is over here. Does not mean that I'm up in my game, if you will. Doesn't mean I'm not as legitimate if I don't compete against men. I can be the best in my sport, and that's it. I don't have to validate anything by competing against a man.
I mean, I totally agree. That's the argument I'm making. You changed my mind 5 years ago. 5 years ago, you changed my mind. How about that? 5 years ago. So
You've influenced him.
Maybe I'm not using the right words, but I'm trying to make your argument. I really am, because I do believe. I agree. You have your lane. And you trying to compete against men it's like going into a different lane, and it doesn't. I just don't see the need for it. But then you're looking at what you have to do is for transgender men, his biological men, to come into that lane, makes it more difficult for those players to compete. I mean, there is an inequity there. It's not fair. I'm gonna leave it at that. But go ahead, Robbie. You want to go next? I know Lizzie has a lot to say, so we're gonna let her go.
Like you, Neo, I do struggle with this topic because on one hand, I completely accept that people have the right to identify with their appropriate gender. I'm all for inclusivity. And I respect the spirit of fair competition. A biological male who identifies as female, despite any treatments that they've received, still, for the most part, have the morphology and hormones of a biological male, which you said, Neil, does give them an advantage physically in competition. So in general, not always, male competitive athletes perform at a higher level than their female counterparts. This is in general, and I mean, if you want to bring that into question, take a look at the Olympic records. They speak for themselves, and it documents it. This situation creates an unfair advantage that some will exploit for the sake of scholarships, endorsements, money. So biological females in women's sports are being placed at a serious disadvantage here, and there is something that needs to be done to address that. And I think that there's a couple of ways they can go about it. In the spirit of competition, you can have athletes compete with their biological sex counterparts, regardless of how they identify. So a biological male would compete against a biological male, a biological female would compete against a biological female, regardless of how they identify at this point in their life? Or this violates the spirit of inclusivity, create a separate league or division where trans athletes can compete freely and fairly against one another. It just balances the playing field. It's a
It's a tough
slippery slope
situation, to be
argument.
honest
It
with you,
really is no
because
good answer for it. But women, yes, biological female athletes are being placed at a disadvantage now where some people can absolutely exploit the system.
the question I have, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna see if Lizzie can answer this. So where does the line stop, right? Because, for example, let's say we say, okay, transgender females who were biologically males can compete against women, and then where does it stop where we say gay men should be able to compete? Because we're all it's all discrimination based upon gender, right? If we're breaking it down from men and women sports, that's discrimination. And you're saying men can't compete in women's sports and women can't compete in men's sports. That's discrimination based upon gender. So when we start blurring the lines between the two, then where does it end? Because then we talk about, can a gay man say, hey, look, I'm gay, I should be able to compete in women's sports, which
No,
legitimately,
that's a false.
That's-
That's not a
I'm
rational
okay.
equivalent.
But
Because
even
gay
if
men
we're not
are
saying gay
because
men, if I
gay men aren't
decide,
identifying as women. Gay men aren't identifying as women. You're talking about two totally different
right,
things.
okay,
Gay men identify as men. So they would never have that conversation as, okay, I'm gay, so let me just go and run and compete against a woman. Like that's something completely different.
it's not completely different. It's
It
not.
is completely different because they don't identify. It's not a homosexual is not a gender issue. It's a sexual orientation issue.
Fair enough.
They're two completely different things.
Fair enough. Okay,
That's
I'll
fair.
I'll accept that. But what if me as a
So
man,
do you think it's
me as not a gay man, decides that I want to play in women's sport, right? Because you're discriminating against me as a man, saying that I can't compete in women's sport. Then
so you're saying like include everybody because we're including
right. I
transgender?
mean, I'm not suggesting that. I think that I don't think that should be the way to go. But I'm saying, where does the line?
Oh, where does it end?
Where do we stop? Where's the line stop? What do we say? What defines man and woman? First of all, then you know, it's
My
just a
goodness.
very difficult. What I'm saying is a very difficult thing to deal with because it's hard to define, especially when people are defining themselves as they should be able to. But what's stopping me as someone who maybe can't compete in my level, and I want to compete against women instead because I feel like I can compete against women. You know, what's to
I
stop me from
mean,
doing that? There's nothing to stop me from
it's
doing that.
not black and white, it is gray. So I feel like with transgender individuals that want, I feel like to a level, yeah, let people play who they want to play against. But this is a game though. You know what I mean? There is an end goal to win. Like if games didn't, like if sports didn't have like the competitive nature, sure, we can all have this hobby and we can all play. But I feel like you have a clear advantage. So you're clearly going to always win. That's not fair. So I feel like my question was like, is it fair for them to be included? It's not, I'm not really asking like, should they be included? Because yeah, they should. I feel like everybody should. But is it fair?
Okay, Lizzie,
Hmm.
let you close this one out.
Let me just start by saying that this is not an easy topic.
Nah.
This is not a topic that has a definitive answer on either side. As far as this just being a game, sports is a profession to a lot of people. Like a lot of these professional athletes have been training since they were, 6, 7, 8 years old.
2 years
They
old.
they play the same sport, in elementary school, in junior high school, college, and they do that in the anticipation of making money. Okay, I don't have the answer for it. Like I don't know what the right answer is that won't offend someone on either side. I kind of do
Right,
buy
right.
into what Rob said, in that maybe we do have a special category for transgender athletes. Just like we have a category for men's and women's basketball, men's and women's track, men's volleyball, men's wrestling, women's wrestling. Maybe we have a special category for transgenders. But let's not pretend that it's just an easy transition on both sides, that the competition is fair on both sides, because it is not. Any competition where you have to use a drug to make you eligible means that you shouldn't be playing to begin with, at least not in that particular category. Any competition where you have some type of advantage that's been enhanced, not by nature, but by something on the outside, is not fair. It's not fair. And like a lot of these stories you hear are about track and field, but it's not just track and field. It's not just running a race. It's also a very prominent issue in girls wrestling, because mostly for wrestling, it's at the high school and maybe college level. I don't think it's an issue with like professional Olympic wrestling, but I could be wrong. Mike Winter and I had a conversation earlier this week where he said that it's definitely an issue in volleyball, again in track. I mean, who knows? But if you pay attention to the way
Male
people
volleyball
compete,
players are vicious. Mike Winter is a vicious volleyball player.
whatever, he ain't nobody.
Oh, really?
If you pay attention to the way men and women compete in sports, there are very few professional sports where they compete against each other, where the two sexes compete against each other. And if they do, it's usually not in a physical competition. And there's a reason for that. Physiology plays a huge factor in whether or not it's a level playing field. And so again, I don't know the answer. But we can't just sit back and be like, oh, well, we're not being fair, or we are, discriminating, we're bigots, we're no, I'm not. I'm saying I don't know how to fix this. I'm saying it's not an easy answer. And whatever answer that, folks come up with the governing bodies come up with as we move forward with this, someone is going to be upset on either side.
Yeah.
Someone is going to be upset.
I was sorry. I was laughing in the middle of your thing. I wasn't laughing at you. Mike Winter said, "Don't try to kiss up now, Bama," because he's been yelling at me in the comments.
Oh yeah, he
about
has.
my comments.
Actually, I
He
want to
said make
address
informed
Daria.
comments.
I do want to address Daria Winter, because I did say that I completely accept that people have the right to identify with their appropriate gender. And when I say that, I mean appropriate to themselves. That makes them feel validated as a person. So thank you for challenging me and making me unpack the language, but that's absolutely what I meant by saying their appropriate gender.
Yeah, and I hear what you're
Appropriate to
saying,
them.
Lizzie, and also I hear you, Mike Winter, on what you're saying as well.
I ain't saying nothing. Pay him no mind.
No, they were saying the same thing you were saying. He was just correcting, saying, it's not the same. So I agree. I understand. I hear you. That's why we have the conversations.
So you have this particular story pulled up right now. So this is kind of a story about someone on the other side of the coin. So Mac Beggs is a transgender male. Most of the story, what we've been talking about up until this point, has been about transgender females. Mac Beggs is a transgender male. Mac Beggs was born biologically as a female, has transitioned into a male.
Transition.
Wants to compete as a male, but whatever state he lives in, the sports governing body does not allow that. By law, by their rules, they say that you have to compete under the gender, under the sex that is on your birth certificate, which for Mac is a woman, is a female. So he, as a wrestler who has been taking testosterone shots and other hormones and what have you, has to compete against girls. And 100% emphatically, in this new and improved version, physically new and improved version of himself, he's competing against girls and is winning hands down. And that's not what he intended to do. He wants to compete against boys, wants to compete against people that he would fairly be able to be in competition with. So that's another side of the coin, where a lot of the rules, a lot of the governing bodies, they're not catching up to what this is. A lot of people, are like thinking, okay, if I don't talk about it, if I don't think about it, it's just going to go away. If I just, put it to the side, it's not going to be a big thing. And it's increasingly year after year becoming bigger and more complicated. And at some point, we do need to figure out how we are going to address this, because transgenders are not going away.
Nope.
You know, just
And I
because we
totally
close
agree
our
with
eyes
that.
They
doesn't mean
shouldn't, no.
What's
so
the
we need to
answer?
figure out how we're going to address this. What is the answer?
And that's what I'm asking. That was part of my questions. That I don't know what the answer is. I'm like, where do we draw the line? Because again, there have been a lot of strides in women's sports throughout the years. I remember the significance of the WNBA coming along, and that was a significant thing because women in sports, they couldn't get paid in basketball because they couldn't join the NBA. So now they're able to join the NBA, but now we're saying that potentially, people in the D League, who are transgender can maybe step in and be WNBA players, and dominate the WNBA. But then doesn't that take away from the NBA player? Especially again, if you're taking hormones, even if it's like Caster Semenya. Yeah, I mean,
who just let me qualify, because a lot of people get confused. Caster Semenya is not transgender.
Yep.
She's intersex. Okay, she was born with some stuff, more stuff on the male equation than she cared to have, than the average person who is a woman is. Not her fault. It's a natural process for her. However, she's a track athlete. The Olympics are saying if she wants to compete, the IAAF are saying if she wants to compete, then she has to drug up to bring down her testosterone levels, which she is emphatically against, because she's like, one, I don't know what those drugs are going to do to me, not only short term, but long term. Two, it's not a fair competition then if I have to drug, because everybody else, I don't know what's in those drugs. Maybe it's going to show up as a PED, a performing enhancing drug. Like, so she's saying, I should not have to do this. I am a woman. I am biologically a woman. I have done nothing to alter that physically, ever.
Yep.
But they won't let her compete unless she agrees to start taking drugs or to have an operation to fix her testosterone levels, to fix what is an overcompensation, if you will, on the male side of the equation.
Yep.
So that's another part of the story.
All right, ton of comments.
And we haven't caught up to any of this science. We haven't.
Exactly.
And we're way over time. So police unions need. Oh, I'm sorry, I went backwards too far. Saima Fatima, anyone should be allowed to compete. Derry Winter says, what is appropriate in quotes? Unpack terminology thrown out as if it's.
And that's why I unpacked that earlier.
Oh, that's right. You did that. Right. And then Mike Winter says, no, Neo, that is not the same. Use the Olympics very, very strict standard.
We have moved on.
And then Sonia C. Elias says, so can he fairly be in competition with men? I think she's talking about Beggs. What was his name, Beggs?
Oh, yeah.
When he has taken hormones transition, he is still biologically a woman. Can he fairly be in competition with men?
And that was my question. That was my statement at the beginning. Like, if you have to take drugs to compete, how is that fair?
He could potentially have more testosterone than a natural man.
Absolutely, because of the increased testosterone treatments in order to get him up to that level, can absolutely, if decides to inject the testosterone or take the testosterone treatment at an ideal window before competition, it wouldn't come up as a banned substance because it's supposed to be in his bloodstream as a transgendered individual.
All right, we've got to move on to the next one. Robbie, I did get your message, so yeah, if we can save your topic for the next show. All right, let's just go to
the game. It's 9:09. Let's just go to the
all right, good hot topic. Those were some pretty deep hot topics. So that was good. All right, we're gonna jump right into the game. Let's go into it. All right, as always, we love to end our show with a fun game show. Today's game is from the app What If. The app will ask a random question. What if this? But then something else happens. What would you do it? And you say yes or no. The app has the most popular answer. If you match the most popular answer, you get a point. Person with the most points wins, and as always, gets the final thought for the show. For example, the question is, what if you can read people's thoughts, but you fart continuously for as long as you're reading their thoughts?
Now, are we talking about farting, or are we talking about a silent poop? Which one are we talking about?
Farting sounds aggressive, so farting.
Farting does sound pretty aggressive. I would agree with you. So, what do you guys say? Let's go. What do you each say? Would you read people's thoughts if you had to fart every time?
No.
Hell yes. Hell yes.
I'm with you. I'm a yes. Let's see what the popular answer is.
I'm saying no.
Oh, the popular answer is no. The popular answer is no. So Lizzie and Gianni Storm both get a point. All right, let's
Be
try the
careful,
next.
Jose. My goodness, you and Mel. My goodness.
Hey, you know, they might have I'm not going to speak for what they're dealing with already. So, what if you become a Jedi Knight?
That's why I'm single.
What if you become a Jedi Knight, but your best friend becomes a Sith Lord? I assume everyone knows.
Sith Lord?
Okay, so you don't know. You don't know Star Wars.
Oh, wow. That's a whole other show, man.
Should I
you need
Google
an education.
Yanni, think of it like, a diehard liberal versus a Trumpster, if you will.
That's true. So you're
the Jedi
liberal.
Knight is a liberal, the Sith
You're
Lord
Biden,
is...
and you're Biden, and your best friend becomes Trump.
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah,
What
but
do you say? Would you do it?
I like Jedi. Yeah. Yeah.
What's what everybody else
I'm
say?
in.
I'm in too.
I'm in.
Yeah.
Wait.
I want to be a
Wait.
Jedi
I
Knight.
don't care what my best friend does. If my best friend wants to become a
Shoot.
Trumper, that's
They just wouldn't be my best friend. Like,
right.
there's
That's
no...
how I see it. Right.
No,
So
no,
you
your
good?
best friend would
So you're
still
yes?
be upping your game and honing your skills. Of course, he's still
Your best friend's your
friend.
enemy.
No,
No.
different views.
No.
It's your best
Listen.
frenemy.
Listen, Mike Winter and I are both diehard liberals, and we argue almost 23 hours out of the day. Imagine if he was on the other side. One of us would be dead. Like, it would not end well. It would not end well.
All right. So what are you going with? Yes or no, Lizzie?
No,
No. You're saying no. Okay. Everybody else is yes. All right.
we're
Liz,
done.
Let's see what the answer
We're
is.
done.
Oh no! So Lizzie gets the point.
Wow, Liz.
Lizzie takes the lead on that one. All right. All right. What if you were totally awesome and got 5? Oh my God! This is part of the show. We're gonna skip that one. That's part of the. Oh gosh. All right. It's like an ad for the game. So what if you could lie together? What if you could lie together anything for anyone, and they would believe you?
That sentence doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. But you have to become politically active. What if you could lie?
I'm trying to think. Did they mean to say it like?
Okay, I'm gonna modify it. What if you could lie and anybody would believe everything you said, but you had to be politically active?
I'm already politically active.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, Lizzie's
So
in the
yeah.
lead. Oh, you said no.
No, I said.
She said no.
Yes. Okay, well, the answer was no. All right, let's go.
I didn't say it. I said
I said all right. Let's go.
What if every orgasm feels like the best one ever, but you have an orgasm every time someone talks to you? What if every orgasm feels like the best one ever, but you have an orgasm every time?
No.
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 No, absolutely not.
That's true. I would
You die.
Unless you're-
You would be dead.
Everybody's no. Everybody's no. Oh wow. Okay, everybody was no. That's the correct answer. All right, so Lizzie's in the lead.
Yeah.
All right, this
horrible.
is the last one. We'll do the last one here. What if the sun shines when you're happy, but it rains when you're sad?
Aw,
You good with
yeah,
that?
that's cool.
I'm down with that.
Yeah, we can control
Every
the
time
weather.
you're sad, it's just gonna rain right on top of your head.
Try not to be
Am I
sad.
inside? Can I be
And then I'll
inside?
just embrace it. Embrace it, the outside
No,
is
I
like the
want to be
inside.
inside. I'm a black girl. I want my head.
I'm gonna say I'm gonna say
Just
this
let
is
it
gonna be a
rain.
cloud that follows you around and literally rains on you no matter if you're inside.
Oh, horrible.
So you're a no, Lizzie?
I say yes.
Yeah, I'm a black girl with black hair. I can't
I'm
be
a no
out in
too on this
the
one.
day.
I'm going with no on this one. So everybody else is yes. Okay, RB and Johnny Storm,
Mhm.
yes. Oh, the answer is yes.
Wow.
All right, so this I think this means Lizzie and Gianni Storm are tied. So comes down to
I
you
think
guys.
I've only got one right.
Yeah, I only got one right. So you guys are tied now. All right, this is the last one for the win. What if you have a bag of chips that never gets empty, but you will never be loved?
Oh, I'm glad I
Oh
know.
my
That's a tough
God.
one.
You
Yeah.
can eat chips for the rest of your
no.
life, but you'll never be
I
loved.
don't care
No.
about chips.
I don't love
Love
chips
me.
that much. No.
All
No.
right.
Yeah, no.
Funyuns maybe. Funyuns maybe. But chips? No.
All right, so the
Ooh.
answer is no. That is correct. All right. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna give the win to Gianni Storm. Good job, Gianni Storm. Yay!
We have a cheat show.
Good job,
Finally.
Gianni Storm. I don't know what's happening with my
We have a
buzzer.
cheat show.
It's worth the shit.
Get your final thought together, Gianni Storm. Get your final thought together. All right, before we
Okay.
close out, let's get in some final shout outs. All right, Gianni Storm, shout outs.
Shout out to everybody in the comments today. You guys had really good comments, really good points on the deep topics that we had. So shout out to you guys.
Yep. Robbie Rock.
Shout out to the government of Canada. In 2 months' time, we should have the ability to produce COVID vaccines domestically to the tune of 2 million doses a month. Just finalizing the site and just finalizing, they just need to get the final approval on the Novavax vaccine. So
Just make sure you send some of those our way because you know you owe us a few. Some of you Canadians been stealing from us. So
Oh, sounds like fight
oh
word.
snap!
Sounds like fight word. Get him, Robbie. Get him, get him, get him.
Come here and tell me that. In a while. In a while.
can't get there. Lizzie Enders, shout out.
Shout out, I'm going the sports angle because Super Bowl 55 is this weekend, this Sunday. So shout out to my boy in Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes. I am putting my faith in you. He's the quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs. I am putting my faith in you to take the evil that is Tom Brady down. Yes, yes.
All right.
Tom Brady.
I just want to point out, Sonia says endless Funyuns will keep you single. By the way,
I ain't got a problem with that. I ain't got a problem with that.
all right. My shout out is to Debbie
That was a
Davis,
good
Sabrina
one.
Khan, Jeff Brilski, Edward Terry, and Derek Mattioli for helping me out with my sci-fi binging. So they were on my page helping me find out what to watch. Because I think I've watched literally like every great sci-fi show there is, but I guess I found a couple that maybe I haven't watched yet.
You know Derek Mattioli? Who knew?
Well, he's definitely a Facebook friend. Maybe just he's on Facebook. I see Olivia Griffin just joined as well on Instagram.
Miss Olivia.
Nice.
Miss Olivia.
All right, so that is all the time we have for today's show. I'd like to thank you guys for joining us. We hope that maybe you learned something, gained a new perspective, or even got some things off your chest. We do apologize if we didn't get to our last two hot topics, but we'll try to see if we can get those onto the next show. Don't forget, we need your support to keep this going. Like, follow, subscribe at TLS Live Show. And if you missed any of today's episodes, check out our clips online on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe to the audio replay of the podcast on iTunes, anywhere you listen to podcasts. I had a fun time today. I hope you did too. I know we had some deep comments, deep topics, but hey, we had a lot of fun talking about them. So the next live show is on Wednesday, February 7th, 4 p.m. Eastern Time and 1 p.m. Pacific. It looks like our winner for the show was Miss
The next
Gianni.
live show is on Sunday,
Oh gosh, did I say Wednesday?
Sunday.
February 7th.
I am so glad that you're here to correct me. Sunday. 4
At
p.m.
4.
Eastern time. 1 p.m.
Professor's job is never done. A professor and the editor's job is never done.
And our winner for the final thought, the game show, was Gianni Storm. So Gianni Storm, take us out. Take us out. What's the
Yes,
final thought?
it is still Black History Month, so don't forget to support a Black-owned business or a Black person in general, and learn something new about Black history, like I did today.
Awesome. Yeah, it was pretty good today. It was a pretty good one today. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Great topics. We will see you on Sunday. Good night.